Joining us now, was an All-American last year at Oklahoma State. It's the ace pitcher for them. Of course, was a high school as a two-time Gatorade Player of the Year in the state of Florida, out of Lando Lakes, Florida, a place I know very well. I speak of Lexi Kilfoyl. Joining us here on In the Circle. How you doing?
Good, how are you?
Very good. What's it like for you here? We're right around the corner now for the start of the season, and for you, you're senior in last year in college softball. Has that hit you yet?
I don't think so. Personally, I'm a really emotional girl, and I know when it hits me, I'll be a crier, but I'm super excited to get started. But I think senior day is when it's really going to hit. But I'm really excited for this team. We have a lot of potential and a lot of young girls, a bunch of new faces, and a bunch of returners. So I'm excited to see where the season's going to lead us.
Tell us a little bit about this group. You mentioned a lot of new faces, a young group. So you're one of the veteran leaders. What's it been like with this young group here, as well as obviously some new assistant pitching coach in Carrie Eberly?
Yeah, I mean, this team is bonded absolutely like amazing because we have a ton of new faces, a ton of new young talent, and we've bonded since the beginning, which I think is always essential for any team. So I'm glad we bonded in the fall, and I think there's so much talent right now that there's so many spots on the field open, and literally it could be up for grabs for almost any person on this team right now. And even the pitching staff, I believe, we're doing such an amazing things like bonding with one another. Although we're very similar, Carrie's finding ways to match us up with each other and be competitive out on the field, and it's been looking really good so far.
Tell us a little bit about this pitching staff you're a part of here, because there's some new faces in there, some young faces, but I know a lot of talent that Coach Gajewski is excited about. Just tell us a little bit about this pitching staff that people are going to get to know this season.
Yeah, so two of our newest pitching staff members, Katie Coots and Sailor Davis, they're freshmen this year, and I mean they're going to add so much depth to our depth to all of our stuff. So obviously, a bunch of us are drop ball pitchers, and the two of them are more up pitchers. So that's definitely contrasting what the rest of us have, which is going to be amazing. They're hard workers. And then we have Catherine Nog, one of our juniors. She's throwing a little bit slower than the rest of us, which, as everyone knows, slow pitching is so hard to hit. So that's going to set the hitters back a little bit from the rest of us. Then we have Ivy Rosenberry, our my other senior, and she's been doing amazing. She got a bunch of experience last year, so excited to see what she's going to bring this year. And then Kyra Acock, I would say one of our best pitchers, and she's coming out and she did amazing last year. She had a bunch of experience, so I think she's going to be able to take all that experience into this year and help lead the staff for sure.
You had a great year last year. You're an All-American. The numbers back that up. What was that like last year? Because you transitioned well into the Big 12, and obviously with Oklahoma State. What did you learn from last year that actually might even help you this year now that you've gone through it for a year?
Yeah, I think switching conferences definitely gives you a little bit more of an advantage because, for instance, when you're in the same conference, you're saying playing the same teams over and over, more than likely the same girls. So I think just going in with that confidence, I think a bunch of our girls can have that confidence because they've never seen any of these hitters before. So I think that's going to be really important for the freshmen to know that these hitters have never seen them before, and that's one of the hardest things to do is hit off pitchers that you have never seen before. So I think that's going to be that's going to set those young girls apart for sure.
How would you describe yourself as a pitcher for somebody that maybe hasn't seen you pitch? How would you describe yourself?
Uh, I would say very calm, very like under composure. I try to keep no emotion. That's just how I've always been brought up my entire life. Every once in a while, if it's a really exciting game, I'll show a little emotion, a little fist pump, but usually I'm just trying to stay calm because I mean, the entire field's looking at you, so I like to be that center of calmness and try and take deep breaths and yeah.
What advice do you give the younger pitchers? They're going to go through this for the first time because now you're the veteran now. You're the leader, if you will. What advice do you give them?
Um, Right now, I think just trusting their stuff, and we're at Oklahoma State for a reason. I think a lot of people have a hard time, like they doubt themselves a little bit, but they're at Oklahoma State because they're good. And I think one of the biggest things I've learned through my experience is we're so good, but there's going to be days that we're going to get kicked in the ass, and you just have to accept those and learn from those and then move on as fast as you can. And so I think that's the biggest thing is knowing how good we are and being confident in what we have and being able to bounce back as fast as possible.
This looking at the schedule, Oklahoma State's going to be playing in Clearwater, that marquee tournament, obviously the second weekend of the season, and then stay there. They're going to play in DeLand on a midweek, and then play in Tampa on a weekend. The reason I bring all that up is you're from Lando Lakes, Florida, which I know is not far away from those areas I just mentioned. What is that going to be like for you to come back to your home state, near your home? I'm sure you're going to have a lot of family and friends watching you in person there here in your senior year.
Yeah, I'm super excited. So this is one of those tournaments that we've done every year. And because we live so close to home, we're able to actually bring the team over to our house. So hopefully we'll get the chance to do that again. But I have a bunch of family coming in, and my brother actually plays football at University of South Florida. So we'll be in that tournament. So I'll be able to see him, and all my family, like all my immediate family, is still in the state of Florida. So I'll be able to see my older brother. He just had his second baby, and along with my older half sister, all my nieces and nephews, and my older half brother. So I'll get to see literally everyone, and I'm super excited. Can't wait. It's awesome to bring the team back to Florida to kind of get a glimpse of my home state, my hometown, and it's really something special.
Hopefully, a little warmer weather too. That's the
Oh
deal.
yeah.
You mentioned your brother played at USF.
Yes.
For
Yeah.
those,
So my little brother, say
yeah.
that again.
Tell the audience about that a little bit about your brother.
Yeah, so my little brother, he plays O-line at University of South Florida, and he's going into his third year of eligibility. So obviously we're playing a tournament at University of South Florida. So super excited to see him and see a bunch of familiar faces because we've kind of started to make friends with the team after going to all of his football games. And so, I mean, he's an amazing player. He's had a bunch of rough injuries, unfortunately, throughout his career, but he's a tough guy. He's toughing them out, and so he's going into his third year of eligibility right now, and I'm super excited to see him.
You,
He's definitely one of my biggest supporters to this day. I mean, growing up, we lifted together. We did a whole bunch of competitive stuff together. So we were always able to push each other to our limits. And I mean, we see each other on the worst days, the bad days, the good days, bad days, literally everything in between. So we have a special bond that not I feel like not many siblings have, and I really I think it's truly amazing.
it's a great story to share. I appreciate you doing that. I would assume he understands. Come that weekend, he's got to wear Oklahoma State gear, right, in the stands. Hey,
Oh
come on.
yeah, yep, yeah. He definitely. I've sent him some gear, so he better be wearing Oklahoma State because I know he has it. I know he does.
He better. It better, or at least if it says your name on it or something, like it'll just, he better. Otherwise, there'll be some scrutiny
Oh
there.
yeah, yep.
Uh, you mentioned obviously your brother there, a competitive, there athlete. Let's talk about your upbringing. There was a big feature on you on Oklahoma State's website, which I recommend people if they have a chance to read. It was really well done. It talked about you. You started playing softball when you were 8 years old, but it wasn't like a love affair with the sport at first. There was kind of some clashes there. Just kind of explain that because that wasn't a guarantee you were going to continue to play softball.
No. Yeah, so growing up, each of all of us kids, my parents, they're like, "You're gonna try sports, you're gonna try them all." So we played literally every sport in the book. I was a cheerleader, I did dance, I played soccer, gymnastics, literally everything. And I was a little bit of a girly girl, and I played softball for a year, didn't enjoy it, told my dad that I wanted to quit, and he actually told me, he was like, "Hey, if I coach this next year, will you give it one more shot?" And obviously, if my dad wants me to do something, I'll be like, "Sure." So I ended up sticking out that year and kept sticking out softball, fell in love with it, and it got me to this day. So, granted to say, if I would have never given that chance, or even if my dad never put his foot down and said, "Hey, like I want you to play," it's crazy to think that I might not even be where I'm at today. And it's transformed my life.
Do you have any idea what you'd be doing if you weren't playing softball?
Oh gosh, I don't know. I feel like some sport of some kind,
Okay.
whether it be volleyball or basketball. I played volleyball and basketball in high school and absolutely loved volleyball. I think if I wasn't doing softball, I'd be playing volleyball. But honestly, has just been such a big part of my life that if it wasn't softball, it'd probably just be another one.
You mentioned you played a ton of sports. Has that helped you in your success in softball? Because I've had coaches tell me they like at players that have played different sports because it shows their competitive side, and then you don't get burned out just playing one sport every single day. Do you feel playing those other sports in the long run helped you be successful, as it turns out, in softball? Maybe you would have been successful in volleyball as well if you would have picked that, but playing all those sports has made you more successful as an athlete.
Yeah, definitely for sure. That was one of the biggest things that I was stressed through my recruiting process was coaches were like, keep playing other sports. Obviously, we don't want you to get hurt playing those other sports, but keep playing those other sports. And even my mom to this day, she comments on my footwork and she's like, that's all because you did dance when you were 5 years old. I'm like, I don't think so. But even like volleyball, basketball, like all those kind of things, all the agility, it gets you while it gets you away from softball, it also is bettering our athletic abilities because you're having to be fast on your feet, you're having to move quick. And then at the end of the day, I think one of the biggest things these days is kids, they grow up playing one sport their entire lives and they end up getting burnt out from it. So I think it's healthy to step away from softball, take a break from softball, like don't even touch a softball for like 2 months, go play volleyball, and then come back, and your love for the game is going to be even better.
No, that's tremendous, and a great message there to a lot of young people, I think, too, as well.
Oh, yeah.
In that feature story, there was a moment that caught me where, and I'm paraphrasing basically, but it said that you and your father had a talk at one point where you both came to a realization that you needed somebody else to coach you pitching wise, not him. Take me through that process. I know it was difficult. As the feature article said, he was emotional, he cried, but obviously, take me through that process in your development as a softball player.
Yeah. So when I decided I wanted to take softball seriously, we moved up from the little league to the travel ball level. And my dad he was my coach for about 2, 3 years. And he absolutely loved coaching. But then again, we were also young that he didn't know much about the game. He knew the basics. And I remember the day that he decided that he was going to quit. He didn't even tell me ahead of time. He sat down in front of all of us girls and just started crying. And we're like, what's going on? And he told us, he's like, I have to move on. Like, I can't be your guys' coach forever. You guys have like tremendous talent that other coaches, they know a lot more essentially. And so I had everyone in tears, even Homer, and I don't see Homer cry often. So, that definitely took a toll on him. But yeah, so ever since that day, he was like, we need to find you a pitching coach. We need to find you a coach that's going to make you better because he wanted to give us kids the absolute like best experiences possible. So he sent us to private lessons, one-on-one training with trainers. And so ever since that day, he was 100% dedicated and he was willing to do absolute anything for all of us kids so we could pursue our dreams as a college athlete.
Mention you're from Lando Lakes, Florida, which I don't. What's in the water there? Because there've been a lot of talented softball players, especially pitchers, that have come out of that area. Shannon Sale, who won a national title at Oklahoma and is currently a GA at UCF, who's in the Big 12 this year. They've had pitchers there like certainly Callie Turner's played at a high level, that you've known, played at Tennessee and Arkansas, pitched. Yeah, Aaliyah White pitched at UCF and now is an assistant at North Georgia in Division II, where they won a national title. I'm leaving people off the list, so I apologize in advance, but we only have a certain amount of time on this podcast. But describe that area. Why is it so rich in softball talent?
Yeah. So actually, all of us, every single name you had mentioned, we actually all went to the same pitching coach growing up, Casey Clark Zerby, and she'll always be one that she like denies that all the talent comes from her, but she is definitely a huge reason why all of us have been so successful. She simplifies pitching to the point where it makes you feel almost dumb sometimes because she's like, just do this tiny little thing. and it fixes everything immediately. So every single one of us, I mean, she's an amazing person. She's been a role model for every single one of us, and she continues to be our role model to this day. I know Callie Turner recently quit softball, and Coach Casey is someone that's going to be a part of her life for the rest of her life, as well as the rest of us. So she's been a huge part of our journey. And I truly believe that that's what makes us so amazing is her guidance through our entire journeys.
That's a good story there. And so when you're going to Casey Clark's, how many of these pictures you get to know? It sounds like Callie you got to know. How many of them did you get to meet and know? Describe what that was like during that time period?
Yeah, so I first started going to Coach Casey when I was in the 8th grade when I wanted to start taking, I'd moved pitching coaches and started going to her when I wanted to take it more seriously. And so going there, we get to meet so many faces. So obviously you had mentioned Shannon Sale, Callie Turner. Callie Turner and I actually, we grew up literally 5 minutes away from each other. And some other pitchers like Mary Half, she
Yeah.
pitched at Arkansas, like you were saying, Aaliyah White. So it's really amazing to like she just has these 3 mounds in her backyard that you walk into every single day and you don't know who you're gonna run into. So it's anywhere from younger girls to girls that are playing in the pros. So it's awesome to get to know everyone and kind of get to talk through softball. We do this thing in the winter where we'll actually get all the pitchers together that are in college and we'll throw live to some high school batters and some college players. So we get to meet each other there. We get to be competitive with each other and kind of learn from each other because there's a lot of talent that comes from Coach Casey. And so it's really awesome like to see all these faces and then to even like meet up with them down the road, like in postseason and stuff.
That's pretty awesome. Of course, I know Casey Clark's already coached Mackenzie Otis, who pitched at UCF, Allison Kime, among others, many, many, many others. And I'll never forget, it was your freshman year at Alabama. I told you a story a little bit off the air, but I'm in the stands. I'm covering them as a media person. And you've been to Eddie C. Moore Stadium. It's not the easiest place to just get a seat, especially when it's super packed and sold out like it was for this Alabama Washington game where you're starting. And I'm sitting and I find the seat. Casey was kind enough to save me a seat. There were a lot of fans around there rooting for you loud. I would assume it was family members now in retrospect. But she was locked in on every pitch of yours, but it was also following Callie Turner, who was pitching with Tennessee at the time in Mexico there. But that was, I got introduced to you very quickly that weekend. You were a two-time Gatorade Player of the Year in the state of Florida for the best, which goes to the best high school player. Describe that, to win that twice. As you know, that's not easy in the state of Florida. Describe that, winning those two awards and your high school career.
Yeah. So honestly, like throughout my high school career, I didn't even know that existed. I was a very like, I wasn't involved in social media a lot. I wasn't involved in like the softball world a lot. Like I felt like I went, had my fun and practiced and kind of went home. And so I didn't know it even existed. So I remember getting an email, or no, I think my coach had called me, Coach Stevenson, my high school coach. She had given me a call and had told me, and I was like, "What? Like, what is that?" And she's like, "You're like the best player in like the state of Florida right now." And so it kind of shocked me, and then I kind of realized, and then I started crying. And I think there's so many amazing things that comes out of that. So they actually have this thing where you get to choose where you get to donate $1,000 to some organization of your liking. And so I think it's really awesome that it gives opportunities to these like smaller organizations. And yeah, and then the second year that I had won it, I was battling an injury through my senior year, and I actually like I knew it was a thing now, and I knew I was hurt and I was out for about a month. So I was like, that's definitely like out of the runnings. I was like, Callie's definitely gonna get it because Callie and I we had stayed in contact. And I was like, Callie's definitely gonna get it. Like she's had a hell of a year. Like she's doing amazing things. And Coach Stevenson had called me again. She's like, hey, like just wanted to call and let you know, like you won Gatorade Player of the Year again. I was like, what? And that like obviously I immediately started crying because I had absolutely no idea. Because I was hurt, I was like, I'm out of the runnings, like it is what it is, like can't control like my injuries. And yeah, it was a really special moment. And I think it's an honor to be named the number one.
That is incredible. That's a great story. I love that. You end up going to Alabama, and I mentioned that Washington game. And the reason I bring that up, that was a big game for you because nobody knew you at that time. You literally were starting your career, and people didn't know you until that game because that was a marquee game. It was nationally televised, and you shut them down. What do you remember from that game?
I remember I was told maybe about 2 hours before the game started, like, hey, like you're getting the ball today. And I believe at the time Washington was the number one team. And I had some like great leadership over me. And I tried not to make the game as big as it was, but what they told me was pretty much like, hey, this is your first college career. Like, you just played on Team USA. Nobody knows you. Like, you have amazing stuff. Like, you walk into there and play that game just as if you're playing a high school game because your great stuff is going to win us games. And so I ended up just going to that game. Like, I was in my hometown. Obviously, I was a little nervous because my whole family was there, but try not to make it more than what it seemed. And I just remember going to that game. I remember, I think I hit a triple at one point too.
Yeah, you
But
were a two-way. You were a two-way there in the lineup.
yeah, so I mean, it was a fun game overall. And just to have it in my backyard, I mean, that's something that I will always remember is having my entire family there for one of my first ever like collegiate shutouts. So,
Trust me, and they were very loud. I'm assuming because I was right in the middle of
yeah.
that round there. You mentioned USA. That's right. You were on the junior U.S. national team, right, in
Yes.
2019. Do I want to say that correctly?
Yep, 2019 and 2017.
So I actually saw you because I was in Clearwater. That was the 2017 was in Clearwater when you won the gold. Bubba Nichols went crazy. You beat Japan. I remember as it started pouring during the ceremony, so everybody raced quickly to the ceremony and then got out of there as quickly as possible. And then 2019 was when you won. The U.S. won on a walk-off in California against Japan. Describe that experience those stairs with the junior national because there's a lot of who's who of players there and coaches.
Hmm. Yeah, so I mean, that was an experience that I will never take for granted. Just being able to play for your country with USA on your chest is one of the absolute biggest honors that any softball player could ever want. And getting to play for the junior team was such an amazing experience. It's crazy how you could have so much talent on one team in while you're playing over the summer. And so got to meet some amazing faces. And to this day, like I'll see these girls like Sis Bates to this day, like we didn't even get that close. And every time I see her, she runs up to me, gives me the biggest hug. And it's just it's amazing. And same with all the other girls. Like we keep in contact. We'll like comment on each other's stuff on like social media. So it's amazing to see how much talent can be poured into one team and then get to play those players in your college career.
And you got to play with great coaches. I believe Laura Berg was the head coach on the 17 team. Tricia Ford, I believe, was the pitching coach on that team. And then in 19, it was Heather Tarr, who was the head coach with Cindy Ball Malone, I believe, was the pitching coach there. And they're now on the national team coaching there. Uh, you've been around a lot of good coaches, haven't you?
Yes, I have. Yeah, and they have some amazing knowledge to share, and I think it's just growing the game, and it's amazing to play underneath them, get to say I played underneath them, and just taking all their knowledge and absolutely everything they have to offer. And they're amazing people. That's what makes it that much better is they're amazing coaches, but they're amazing people, and they truly want what's best for every single girl on that team.
You have a good run at Alabama. You got to the World Series. You decide to move on. You come to Oklahoma State. And I didn't realize this until it was brought up in the feature story. You had met Coach Kenny Gajewski before, during your visits when you were ended up deciding to go to Alabama. But Florida was in the mix when Kenny Gajewski was on Tim Walton's staff as an assistant. How much? And you mentioned in the feature, it said that was a factor in you deciding to come to Oklahoma State. Just talk about that, the making that decision to come to Oklahoma State, and the fact that you knew Kenny from that one visit that made a big impression on you.
Yeah, so definitely in eighth grade, that was when I took my visit to Florida. And that was, it's crazy to think about because I didn't even know what I wanted in life in eighth grade. And I remember going on that visit and meeting Coach G. So Coach G was actually the one that took me around on my visit because the head coach Tim Wallen, he had duties to cover. And so Coach G was with me the entire day. And me and my parents just absolutely adored him. We thought he was an amazing person. And Coach G always says that I chose Alabama over them, but little does he like he didn't know that Walton ever offered me. So I didn't even I didn't even have the chance. So I give him hell for that every once in a while. But I remember going on my visit to Alabama and I absolutely fell in love with the school, the staff, the people, it was absolutely amazing. And then obviously when I hit the transfer portal, I coaches started reaching out to me and my dad had always talked about, he was like, "Hey, like I know you like loved Coach G, like has he reached out to you?" And I was like, "Actually, he hasn't." And so I found that a little weird because I had coaches in my email and I was like, he never reached out to me, but like he also recruited me at Florida. So I ended up finding his number through a bunch of coaches and stuff and gave him a call and told him that I wanted to come see Oklahoma State, see what they had to offer. And I absolutely fell in love. They were my last visit over the summer. And me and my parents kind of sat down and talked and everything I had wanted on a list of new schools. Oklahoma State had everything that I absolutely wanted, and it made the decision so much easier. And I loved Stillwater to death, and here I am now. So it's everything I've ever imagined. They helped me find my love for softball again, and I'll forever be grateful for everything Oklahoma State has brought to me.
Did you ever get an answer why he didn't reach out to you? Like,
So he never gave me a firm answer. I never asked him, but he does like when girls recruit him or girls recruit the school Oklahoma State because he's a true believer. Like if you want to be there, you will enjoy your time. And so he doesn't want to drag people along and like bring them in just for them to say yes and have be kind of iffy. He wants them to want to be there. And I truly think that's what brings so much passion to this team is everyone wants to be here so bad because they recruit Oklahoma State as much as Oklahoma State recruited them. And so I think that's what makes this place so special is everyone loves it here and that's why they chose it here.
Samantha Schau shared a similar story. It was the same way when she transferred to Oklahoma State. It was a similar thing. And Kenny, when I've had him on the show, has said that he wants players to be that want to be here, and that makes a ton of sense. You know, he wants to see if you're generally interested in coming, that you're the one that's interested. It's not that I got to reach out to you to be interested. It's a fascinating philosophy, but it worked clearly.
Yep,
Uh,
it
uh,
did.
what advice would you give people? What would you describe playing in the Big 12? What is Big 12 softball like?
Big 12 softball is, I would say it's just as competitive as any other major conference. And I think it's crazy how much talent is in the Big 12. And now that it's growing, obviously it's going to be a little bit different this year. So we'll get to play more teams, thankfully. We'll have a season that starts sooner. So playing in the Big 12 is just it's a wild ride. There's amazing teams, Oklahoma, and then obviously we're gonna get to face like those newer teams like BYU and UCF this year. So super excited for the season and to play those new teams because those are new teams that they could have so much potential and we don't even know that yet because we've never played them.
Of course, you got to the World Series last year, back with Oklahoma State. What was that experience like, and what do you want what did you take from that experience to help you this year?
Yeah, I mean that's the end goal is obviously a national championship and everyone wants to be in OKC at the end of the year. So that experience is just it's absolutely crazy how much it's grown, especially from my sophomore year. We went to the College World Series my sophomore year at Alabama, and recently they had actually added in those grandstands up top. So it's the size of the stands has absolutely grown, and it's amazing to see how much softball can attract people. And it's crazy how much it's growing and it's continuing to grow. And I hope it continues to grow. And obviously it's a professional sport these days. It's not the greatest paying that I've heard, but I super excited to see like how far it can go because softball is it's everything to some people and it's everything to me right now. So I can't wait to see where it leads us. And yeah, OKC is just that's where everyone wants to be and everyone wants to experience it. And I truly believe that it is it is so amazing just to play on that stage, play on that level with so many people surrounding you.
That's also the place where you found out you were an All-American last year. Do you remember that day when you found out, and how did you find out?
I do. So Coach G, we were actually getting ready. I think there was a rain delay. We were getting ready to play, and all of us girls were sitting around, and the coaches walked in, and Coach G started talking. He always talks, but we didn't know what he was talking about. So we were like, he was just kind of babbling, and he ended up getting on the topic of All Americans, and you could see like when his eyes, he got so emotional listing off all the All Americans, and I just remember it being so special because at the beginning of the like before I even on my visit, he's like, "What are your personal goals?" And I remember telling him I was like, "I want like whatever the team like is best for the team. I want to be what the team needs me to be, like whether that's hitting and pitching, whether that's just pitching." And he's like, "No, like what are your personal goals?" And I had never really thought about it in that sense because it felt selfish to have personal goals and to think about what I wanted to be. And I just remember when he broke the news, it was not relieving, but it was just like, wow, like I can pursue these personal goals while also leading my team to the College World Series. And I just being in Coach John's arms, I just remember crying. Same with Coach G, I remember crying. And it was such a special moment to share with every single one of the girls that was also an All American because it was the first time for some of them as well.
Sure. Yeah. No, I remember that. I remember Elena Vaughter was caught off guard when she found out right on the in the podium when they told
Yes,
her there,
yeah.
that, which was a funny story there. And I would assume the family was emotional too once they got the word. You got to tell them. Were you able to tell them, or did they already know?
I think they had announced it before I was able to see them because we had gone straight into a game. So I remember seeing them after the game and just my parents being there with open arms, and they were so proud because they've seen me through my roughest days and my best days. And I think they know that softball has taken me this far, and it hasn't been the best on me, and just to make all those sacrifices worth it, it was awesome to see how much they truly were excited for me as well.
You thought about what do you want to do post softball? Do you want to still play? Do you want to still continue to play? Maybe professionally? Maybe try to with USA softball. You know, obviously Olympics now are back in play with 2028. Is that something in the cards, or what do you have decided what your plans are after Oklahoma State?
Yeah, so I'm gonna play softball as long as I can, and I think I'm gonna give the Athletes Unlimited a try. Obviously, if they allow me to, because they have to recruit me as well. So definitely want to give Athletes Unlimited a try, and I've even thought about the pro leagues, whether it be here in the States or they have really good pro leagues over in Japan, overseas. So I definitely want to do something along those lines because to travel and get to play softball, I mean, talk about a dream. And obviously, Team USA, I would absolutely love to. It'd be an honor to have Team USA on my chest again. So if that is up in the runnings, I will be there and I'm going to work my butt off because that is one of the greatest honors ever.
Right on. I'm happy to hear it. You'll continue to play. That's always exciting. You're fun to watch. Two quick last things. What do you when people bring you up? What do you want them to say about you? What is the things that you think people should say about you as a player?
Um, I like when they, how do I say this? Um, I don't know. I would say like one of the greatest compliments I think I receive is like how humble I am, and I'll usually be like, "Oh, like thanks," like, but that's just I really I really take that to heart because that's not a lot of things you don't see that often these days, and I just I want people to see me as like a hard worker and like go in and like gets her job done, but she also loves it while she does it. And I think that's also an amazing compliment is people just saying how much fun she has while she's playing because at the end of the day it's softball. We're hitting a stick with a bat and we're throwing a yellow ball to people. So it's we're like don't take it so seriously, and I just remember when softball wasn't fun for me. I was like, I'm literally throwing a ball to a person with a stick. Why is that like affecting me? I was like, it shouldn't be this way. And so I think being a player that plays and has fun and like can laugh doing it, like that's how I want people to see me playing softball.
That's good. That's really good. And then when they see this team play, this 2024 edition of Oklahoma State, what will they see and what will be a key or two for this 2024 version to accomplish all your internal goals?
Ooh, will you restate that one more time?
Yeah, just what is the identity of this team you think will be this year in 2024? And then what are a couple keys for your team to have the success you hope to have?
Yeah, I think some key factors for us is going to be just sharing experiences amongst one another because there's a few of us older girls that have a bunch of experience playing on the high levels, and so I think it's going to be a lot of learning curves, and we're just going to have to stick together at the end of the day because everyone's bound to hit a bump in the road. And I think because we're so young, we're going to have to lead each other. Even the young ones are going to have to lead us older ones as well. And so I think some key factors are definitely going to be like staying where our feet are, playing like the game that we're playing that day, and never take softball too seriously. I think we have an amazing time having fun here, and that is one of the biggest things that comes out of this program is the fact that we were able to have fun playing it. And at the end of the day, that's what helps teams win is being able to have a blast while playing softball. So I think that's going to be super. That's going to be our identity this year is playing like having fun, but playing our asses off.
Well, have fun, enjoy it. I know it's the last year go around; it goes by. You'll miss some of this down the road. I know that I've had players tell me that over the years. So take it all in, enjoy the moment, enjoy the season. Thank you so much for taking the time from your busy schedule as a student athlete to talk to us and share your story. I've followed your story from afar, and I was glad to get to talk to you about it because I've always been intrigued by your journey. So thank you for sharing that. Good luck this year, and I'm sure we'll cross paths. But thanks for doing this.
Thank you so much. Thank you for giving me this experience to share. Appreciate it.